if they don't understand what you expect, then they're never going to give you what you expect.
What's happening, Skid Steer Nation? It is your host, Ryan Deemer, and we are with Philip Ignatz. He owns a company called South Lake Land Management. He is focused in mulching and land clearing, and he does this part-time. He is a full-time union heavy equipment operator and does this business on the side with a goal of moving to full-time in the near future. He's located in Indiana, and we are excited to have him on the show today. Philip, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So are we catching you on break for your full-time job or?
No, I don't have a regular job today, so I'm moving some material around at the house, just trying to get some stuff tidied up. It's kind of hard ground today, so it's not too dramatic to make a mess. It's easy to clean up when the ground's tough.
Gotcha.
You know?
Well, I think the story that you want to talk about today is pretty intriguing. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys out there in the industry who are doing their own business part-time. They're afraid to take the plunge to go full-time, and they just need a little bit of guidance to say, hey, I need to set some benchmarks so that I can do that. And
certainly
to hear your story and to talk about that, it's going to be enjoyable for me, and hopefully the listeners enjoy it as well too. So let's just take a step back here. You're a heavy equipment operator. You've been in the union for how many years now?
Oh, since 2008. So what is that, like 14 years?
14 years. So, you started your business 3.5 years ago or so now?
Yeah, ballpark.
And what was the deciding factor for you to start doing work on your own?
I enjoy, dealing with customers, and I enjoy being in the woods. I've always grown up around equipment before even getting into the trades. I mean, I've been around tractors and whatever since I was 5-6 years old. So being in the woods and being outside has always been enjoyable, as well as when you see somebody having a problem, trying to kind of build a scenario to fix the problem that they're having that maybe they're not capable of dealing with themselves.
Yeah. So did you always plan on being part-time, or when you started, was your goal to build a business that you could?
I've always wanted to be full-time. It's okay. If I could get myself to that point, it's every year is another trying to like push to, whether it's getting equipment or putting policies in place to, kind of figure out what you're going to do in the future.
Oh, you said my favorite word, man. Policies and processes. I think
that
you'll never find a successful business that doesn't have them.
Yep. I totally understand with you there.
So yeah, you got started in 2019. You started with an old Ford tractor. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was the closest thing I could find to the tractor that I first learned how to run when I was a kid. And as time went on, all I was doing was bush hogging. I'd barter or I'd do work for the neighbors, and somebody would call and I'm always out there fixing it. So one thing led to another. I realized I couldn't have an old antique and try to present myself to be reliable. Sorry, I can't come to your job because I got to fix my machine,
Yeah.
So I got into a 40-horse tractor, and then after that, breaking down several times, the dealer convinced me, like, you need to be in a skid steer, not a tractor. You need to be in a skid steer. And since then, granted, it's cost me quite a bit more money. The productivity is way better, and I don't feel like I'm killing myself either.
Right. So how long was it that you started the business in 2019? When did you buy the skid steer?
I want to say it was March of 20, because the machine was a year old, and that was probably ballpark March of 20, I think.
So you hustled for almost a full year with just tractors to do some work until you made the plunge into.
Well, and the worst part was half of the hustling was with a loaner tractor from the dealer. In the midst of everything starting to happen and things piling up and things getting hard to come by, the tractor broke. Now, of course, all the while it was financed. You're coming up with a payment, and the part was back ordered for 17 weeks.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for an amazing dealer, I don't know what I would have done. I put more hours on the loaner machine the dealer gave me when I traded it in than the machine that I had bought.
Yeah, I just love that, you had a goal of starting your own business and the means that you had allowed you to buy an old tractor. And you're like, good enough. Let's hustle. Let's grind. Let's get some work and we'll upgrade along the way instead of waiting until everything to be perfect where you could afford the attachments and the skid steer.
Nothing's ever going to be perfect. I mean, it's like having kids. People tell you, hey, when it's the right time, when it's the right time. You could wait your whole life, but there's never going to be a right time.
No, you're absolutely right. Sometimes you just got to take the plunge and build a plan and trust yourself and go for it. It's the only way to find out if you got what it takes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So now you get into land clearing in 2020. You're focused on mulching and land clearing. How did you find that to be your niche instead of some other service?
Honestly, the property that I bought, we're on just shy of 4 acres. It was heavily wooded, and the woods were so close to the house, you had about 20 foot of a yard. I hired another company at the time that was local to come and do the work and clean up a little bit. I'm like, hey, this is how much cash I have to spend. What can we get done with what you're wanting to do? He came out and did the work. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I saw all the problems he had along the way. But for some reason or another, I was just drawn into kind of clearing stuff. It was enjoyable. It felt there was a huge level of satisfaction that you could take a mess and make it something for somebody to use that they never would have been able to done.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling. Like to me, I agree with you. I think land clearing, turning property that's not being used for any recreational or family use, and then providing an area that you can either build on or use for recreation. It is very enjoyable to see because you can actually physically see the outcome.
Well, that was the big thing. When we moved to this house, I didn't have a yard. And now I show people pictures of what our house looked like in the property beforehand and what it's looked like since I fought to get a yard. And I mean, it's crazy. It's also crazy. I started a lot of it with that old Ford tractor. And now I just scratch my head and I say, I can't believe I did it. And what was I thinking?
Persistence always wins, man. Persistence always wins. Even with an old Ford tractor, if you work it hard enough, you'll get the results you want.
Oh, yeah.
So do those photos of your home, your before and after photos, do you show those to potential clients to show them what outcome they can have? And does that help you close any contracts?
Yeah. Well, it definitely does. I also try to. Sometimes I slack a little bit with, you go look at a job, whether it's before you do the job or when you walk through the job originally, take some pictures just to remember and show somebody. The other thing is it is a big thing to kind of have a portfolio to show a potential client. When they're thinking about spending thousands of dollars, you have to sell them a service, you have to sell them a value. I talked to a client this morning and I gave him a rough ballpark price because, of course, somebody wants to pin you down on the phone. And I said, what I could do in 4 to 5 hours could take you 4 to 5 months. You decide, a couple $1,000s. Yeah, it might seem like it's stiff, but what is your time worth? And do you have the tools to get it done?
How did that turn out for you?
He kind of gave me a cold reaction. He wanted to pin me down to show up with equipment, but when I gave him a ballpark, a high end, low end, he said, well, why don't you just come out for an estimate? Fair enough. I kind of feel like it's a little bit on the cold side, but some people don't realize what equipment costs and what it costs to operate it. I'm not going to be the dummy to come out and work for nothing,
Yep. That's a big thing that we preach to the guys we work with is pre-qualifying on that initial phone call.
Yeah, certainly. The other thing is you don't want every job. I had a customer, I walked through the job, and like you said, you're trying to interview them just as much as they're interviewing you. And when that customer tells you, hey, I had another contractor do such and such project over there, it kind of puts a little bit of perspective in your head. Well, for one, why are you not calling the other contractor back? And for two, is there something that I'm missing on their side of things? Was it maybe they didn't pay? Was it maybe the contractor didn't do a quality job? There's all different things that you're trying to feel somebody out for.
Yep. So there's there's an old philosopher named Pareto, and he's the one that developed the 80-20 rule. Are you familiar with the 80-20 rule?
I've not heard that.
So the 80-20 rule basically says, and it works for every area of your life, but the 80-20 rule says 80% of the profits you generate will come from 20% of your customers, and 20% of your customers will generate 80% of your headaches. I mean, it's the same thing. If you look at your day, 20% of the work you do in a single day generates 80% of the outcome. It's
correct. Yeah.
It's just true. 20% of the people in a community do 80% of the work for fundraisers, events, all of that.
Yeah.
And if you look at this, and when I started learning that rule, I started categorizing customers when I talk to them. I'm like, are they top 20? Are they in the middle? Or are they in the bottom 20? Because my goal was to find more of the top 20 that generated good profits that were easy to work with.
Correct.
And minimize
100%.
the amount of people I work with that were in that bottom 20 that were going to be a headache and call me constantly and like want change orders throughout the projects and all that. And what I found is by being conscious of that, every interaction I had with a customer allowed me to find the traits and the repetition in their actions, their demeanors, their questions to say, oh,
yeah,
this is going to be a bottom 20 person.
Yeah.
I don't even want to do the job.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, the other big thing that I strive for is repeat customers. And I have a couple local guys that are, I wouldn't say they're competition. Like I do stump grinding also, and I have a local guy, and that's all he does. And he's always calling me, hey man, I can't believe how much, repeat business you have, because he'll see my projects like, thanks again to such and such a customer. It's a huge deal because not only do you already know that customer is good for what they want, it costs you less to attain them. You put in less headache, and most of them are a little bit more relaxed. Like, your job, do your job, take care of it. If it takes you, I have one guy, he called me out. He said, if it's a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever, just take care of it and make sure it's done. And at the end of it, he's like, man, thanks a lot, and he refers me a good amount of business, and that's who you want.
Yeah. And if you can identify those customers and then continue to develop that relationship with them, it just makes getting the referrals and the repeat business even easier.
The other thing is I try to kind of keep a book per se of those people that that are extremely valuable and check in with them maybe quarterly and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, just wanted to check, see how you're doing. Is there anything you need help with? Is there anything you've thought about that you might want us to look at? It makes those customers invaluable, and you might not think about it when you could use a little something,
Do you do that even when you're busy with work?
I try to, because there's about a handful that I know might use me 3 to 4 times a year. And you're just, hey, I want to touch base, see how you're doing, and it goes a long way.
Yeah. And creating that habit of making those phone calls or scheduling them in your calendar to remind yourself to make them. I mean,
yeah.
Let's be honest. There's a lot of time you're driving to jobs. There's a lot of times you're driving to estimates. There's a lot of times you take a little 20-minute lunch break. It's nothing to take 5 minutes and make a phone call while you're doing that.
Well, and that 5 minutes could be a $7,000 job,
Right. But
it's not come on out here and look at it. I was thinking about doing this.
Most people say, I don't have the time to do that. I'm too busy. And I'm like, well, you're busy driving. Just make a phone call.
If you can get paid to lick the window, right? Why not?
Exactly. So use that time to be valuable to actually move the business forward. So yeah, I love that. I think following up with previous customers and your network, like if you start developing relationships with contractors and home builders and realtors or, inspection companies and all that, like all of those relationships need to be maintained. And it's not just when you need something or they need something. It just needs to be a, hey, how are you? Phone call.
Yeah. It doesn't really take much.
No, it doesn't at all. And it's those small little things that I find that makes the difference between a good company and a great company.
Correct. 100%.
So that's fantastic, man. What's holding you back from going full time? Do you have a dollar amount that you need to be able to hit and justify?
No, I've been, my goal has been to kind of keep acquiring equipment. So when I do go full time, it feels like there's less weight on my shoulders.
Okay.
Although it's one of those things that once you get into it, you never really feel like you have enough equipment, you know?
Correct.
The other thing that's been hard, there's been times where, like, I have a dump truck and, you know, I do little piddly deliveries. I thought about helping a guy to get a CDL. What would it take to have a guy doing little stuff for you? But you realize that they need to depend on you as much as you need to depend on them. And if you're not ready to go full time, it's kind of hard to be fair. If that was worth it, it might push you to get to that full time sooner, you know?
Yeah. So what I always talk to with guys that are part-time like yourself, this is like a trick and trade that I learned doing my business,
Yeah.
is that you can make so much money doing one offer, whether that offer is just land clearing or just septic tanks or just whatever. And for some reason, we as people make it difficult. We have like, oh, what if that dries up? I need to be diversified. So I need to have a dump trailer. I need to be able to do this work. So I need these attachments, or I need to buy a mini excavator so I can do this work. Then I'll feel comfortable going out and doing it on my own. And if you just spend all of that effort and that time and you just drill in the best offer that is so simple to say yes to, you'll have so much land clearing work that you'll have to go full time.
Yep. I mean, I agree. Like I said, but for me, sometimes full time is in the way of part time, sometimes part time in the way of full time. And it's been nice with where I do work that most of the time, as long as they are not absolutely slammed, they understand that I'm going out to make a really good buck for not being there for the day, you know?
Right.
But you still have to try to be open and honest with the employer to keep them happy.
Yep. But I've worked with a lot of contractors and they were especially starting out early, guys take anything they can get to put money in the bank account. And I get it. But I get it at the beginning, right? Like, you bought this equipment, you're like, yeah, I'll do. Yeah, I can do it. When I get my hands on those guys and we start working together and start talking, and once I get them to dial into having, I'll accept 3 core services, but no more than 3. Once I get them to focus on one of 3 services or 2 or 1 service, that's when they go and they can. Almost everybody that follows this 10x is their business in less than 18 months.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. There's plenty of things that, I could do. Am I amazing at it? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't really want to do them. You want to be focused more on a niche and say, this is what I'm really good at. This is where I'm giving a customer the most value. And this is how I'm trying to push myself, you know?
Yep. And then always recrafting that offer. Stop asking people, what do you charge per hour or per acre? Like, go figure out what the best value is for your customer and charge accordingly. You could buy, we always talk about this, like a 2,500 square foot house in Chicago is 3 to 5 times more expensive than it is anywhere else in the Midwest. But each buyer said the home was a good value when they bought it.
Yep.
So price is not the driving factor of whether you get work or not. And people need to change their mind on that. Like, if you don't provide the value and you don't develop a relationship with that customer and they don't trust you, I don't care if you're half the price, they're not going to hire you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the big thing I try to look at when I go to a job is I want to know why they want to do it and what their goal is when they're done with it. Because I could look at one job with 3 different attachments or 3 different tools and figure out a way to do the job. But that doesn't mean that that's the way that job needs to be done for that customer. And people need to really tailor that, which for me, I don't own a mulcher. I rent a mulcher because the dealer I rent from has 4 different kinds of mulchers or mowers. So for me, I find it works better because each job is a little bit different. That one attachment might shine better than the other 3 to 4 for that job. And if you don't look at it, you might be giving a customer a subpar product, which really you could shine because you went with that little bit of extra effort thinking about what their end goal was.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's so important to ask and dig deep with the questions to have a real true understanding of their desires, their wants, their needs, their time frame. So if you got a customer that needs land cleared because he wants to build a batting cage for his son, and you throw in a few extra small things because it would make the batting cage easier for him to build, and it cost you like 20 minutes of your time, but man, that relationship with that customer just 10x'd.
Oh yeah, I did a job like that on Friday. The guy had some little scrub that he wanted removed, and I looked at it. It says, well, I could either use a high flow mower, I could use a mulcher, or I could use a tree puller. Ultimately, this person just built a house, and if I would have used a mulcher, either I would have been cleaning up the mulch when I'm done, or trying to make it look more presentable. I used a tree puller, and when I left the job, everything was smooth, clean. And I also sold him on, hey, by the way, the guy that cleared your lot, he left you 65 stumps. They are going to destroy your lawnmower. Is that something you'd like me to address while I'm here? And he's, yeah, absolutely. So that, 3-hour project landed me $1,600, and really I wasn't in for a whole lot of overhead.
Yeah.
It was the little thing that was already there that you looked at and said, I could add value to this job for the customer, and you're still eliminating the problems that they have.
Yeah. And if you take the time to look around and find other areas that need addressed for that customer, even if you close 1 out of 10, just by asking them if they want this addressed, it's free money.
Right. The other thing is, I have a habit sometimes of being a little bit OCD, and I tend to wander around and see little things that need to be addressed when I'm doing a job, and you just kind of throw it in. It's something that might take you 20 minutes to half an hour. It's not really killing you, but it might have them tell 10 people about the little bit of extra this guy that did my project did.
Right.
It doesn't take much extra effort, and you're already there.
Yeah. And you said the key word is value.
Correct.
Like selling a service, it's a crapshoot. Like people don't know who you are. People don't know what the quality is. And the more value you can provide to the customer sooner, the better brand you build in your community, the better relationships you build with your clients and networks, and the better reviews you get. And then when you start getting that snowballing effect, then you don't even have to look for work hardly.
Correct. But again, like you said, the key word is value. The customer needs to feel like you value them as a customer, and that you're going to do work that is valuable to them.
Yeah, and in fact, we worked with the guy in Texas, and he was he was in land clearing and mulching, and he finally committed. We committed and talked about going full into mulching. And in Texas, there's a lot of property, so that meant dedicated mulching machines instead of a skid steer.
Oh, yeah.
And when he made that drive and he started doing walkthroughs with the customers and presenting the value and showing how it was different than other companies and all of that, like the amount of work that started flowing in was crazy. And within a year, all the contractors in his area on large tracts of property where it wasn't suitable for a skid steer was referring him. They were referring him. Other contractors were referring him.
Yeah.
He was solely focused on providing value on one specific service.
Which Texas, that's pretty tough market for being mulching. I mean, I see on all the groups about some of these people charging stupid cheap money. It's that's got to be a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, and he actually has 3 dedicated mulching machines, and he did that in 18 months.
That's pretty good.
But again, he didn't worry about any other services.
Oh yeah.
He became known for large tract mulching.
Yeah.
Where dedicated mulchers were the ticket.
Which, I mean, those you have to have big machines, big horsepower, you got to be all in on it.
But again, and we use the reference all the time, and guys listening to the show have probably heard me say this in the past, but septic tank companies have all the equipment to do a slew of other services, but nobody ever calls them. Nobody ever calls them for land clearing, driveway repair, or replacing culverts because they've positioned themselves as being a septic tank installation and repair company.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that's a great example for everyone to follow. Like position yourself as the authority and the specialist in your area for a key service.
Very much so. I agree.
people will still call you for other work, and then you can choose whether you want to do it or not based on your availability schedule or the job itself. So yeah, so you talked about having some help actually leave a job site in the middle of it and just tell you they couldn't hack it. Walk me through that.
I had a guy that was a friend of mine, a friend of his, and he started working for me last year, middle of the year. When it started out, he was amazing. I would turn around, he would have the tool in his hand that I needed next. He looked around, he understood what I wanted, what I needed. As things progress, it gets he would get less and less attentive. Well, I had a job several weeks back um, that I was cleaning up and thinning an area that I'd been at another repeat customer last winter, and I had pretty much a 3-day window. It's a wet, swampy area. Customer has probably a $5-10 million house, and you're trying to be the least destructive on their property possible. You have a window, and I explained this to my guy. I said, ultimately, you're not going to do a lot today. You're here in case I need recovery, if you got to hook up the winch on the skid, if something breaks, if you're just kind of here. And he got so frustrated throughout the first and second day, like, hey, can you buck up these logs? Hey, can you pick up these little sticks? The second day, he just did not have his head in it. And I told him, I said, as an employee, you are selling me a service. Your time is what you're selling me. At the point we're at now, you don't have anything to sell me. You're not getting anything done. We're not being productive. And if you don't want to be here, just go home. And he's like, no, boss. I want to be here. I want to be here. Okay, prove it. So, a couple hours go by, and I had told him we were staying until 4:30. About 2:55, 3 o'clock rolls around, and he says, boss, I think I'm going to finish up what I'm working on now. I need to go take lunch. And like, okay, you realize we're leaving in an hour and a half. Like, let's just, come on, get it together. We'll get the last little bit of work done, and then we're done. And he works for about another 10 minutes, and he's like, I'm out. I'm going home. And it's so hard when you're a one-man person to find people you trust is one thing, but to find people that are worth something is a whole other deal. And they'll complain about what you pay them, but yet if you want to get paid more, you need to be worth more. Like, show me what you're worth. Show me that you want to learn. Show me that you want to do more. And if you can't show me that, then I'm not going to pay you more, And I was just so frustrated that you couldn't hold yourself together for an hour and a half. Come on, like, let's push to get it done. And then the next day, I texted him and said, hey, are you going to be out here? And he said, no, it's going to be like yesterday, so I guess I'm just going to stay home. And I said, okay, I guess we'll meet up, we'll settle up, and then we'll call it good, Because if I can't trust you, then I can't use you, or I can't use you when my time is valuable. And I told him, I said, we're fighting a clock. We got 3 days to get this job done before everything thaws out. And once it's thawed out, I'm out of luck. And now I got a job that I can't finish because it's wet. I'm not going to destroy somebody's yard.
Right. Yeah, those are tough situations.
It was frustrating. I told him, I said, when your name is out there, if I gotta stay out here till 10:30 at night, I'll stay out here till 10:30 at night. I understand that you got nothing tied to this, but I have a reputation, and that customer that I was working for had referred me to several other customers that were very happy to open their pocketbook. So if I got to be out there till 10:30, 11 o'clock, so be it. We're going to get it done, and we're going to make them happy.
No, absolutely. And I would bet even outside of the excavation and land service industry, every business owner, myself included, has went through a period where it's just a struggle to find quality help.
Oh, yeah. My wife would post ads on Facebook because I also do a little bit of firewood. And, help stacking firewood, and these people are wanting $20 to $25 an hour, and then they leave you standing out in the cold and they don't even show up. It's just that the world as a whole, I guess within the last couple of years, employers are more forgiving because there's less of an abundance of employees. But when the times turn back around, these people are in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, you're probably correct there. You're probably correct. So one of the things that I did for myself, and I decided to take extreme ownership. And so for every bad employee I had, I said it was my fault they were a bad employee. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to find a better way to be a better leader. And I figured if I didn't challenge myself, I would never improve my leadership skills. And let's be honest, there's some people that they're just who they are, and you can't fix them, you can't help them, you can't coach them. So it's not saying that this worked 100% by no means, but it did make me a better leader in the outcome, right? Like, for instance, with that guy, when you're telling him on the job site all those things that need to be done, like you're just going to need, hey, I need these sticks picked up, I need that, and you had to question him. You were telling statements like, you just need to get this done. You got to get, like, we got to get this done. And like, I found a question approach works. Do you feel like you're actually getting the work accomplished today that we need to accomplish so we can leave at 4:30? No. What can we be doing different?
That's a good way to put it.
So what happens is you make them think, and then you make them actually understand. Yeah, I'm kind of slacking off.
Yeah, I can very much see it that way.
Would you be happy if the employee you hired to help you do this project was working at the rate that you're working currently at?
Oh, I'd be tickled pink.
No, I'm saying
with this guy,
that's a question you would ask him when he's working slow.
Right.
You know, so to me, it's like asking those questions because I want to get their mind engaged.
Well, and the question that I asked him about, or tried to explain to him about you're selling your time to me as a service, was apparently what made him choose to go home, because he realized, and now he told me this after the fact, I felt like I no longer had anything to sell you.
Yep.
So in his opinion, his choice was to go home because he no longer had anything that he could offer me that was valuable.
Right. So
I feel bad.
Yeah. Me being in that extreme ownership phase would have been like, how did I put him in a situation that he felt he provided no value to the company? And I would assess, you know, yeah, he's an operator and I've got him doing remedial work that a 14-year-old could do. You know, but I didn't take the time. There's something that I could have done differently, and it not for everybody, but for me, digging deep into how I can do that better makes me a better communicator, makes me makes me a better leader. Hell, it makes me a better fiance. Like, we're not quite married yet, but it makes me a better fiance. Just because I always question myself, what can I be doing better, or how can I be communicating more efficiently?
Yeah, communicating is a huge deal, whether it's, like you said, whether it's your spouse or your kids or your employees or your coworkers.
Yeah. So what you find that most people, whether it is employees, kids, or your spouse, like when they're frustrated with you, it's due to a lack of communication, an unknowing of what's happening or what you're thinking, or not being a part of the plan.
Thinking of that, I can see several life applications, you know, to that statement.
But it applies to the employees as well. Like, so you sit all weekend thinking about how to attack this job on Monday. You won't go in Monday morning and you tell the guy what he needs to do that day.
Yeah.
And then you get frustrated because he's not on page with you. But you forgot that he's hearing it for the first time Monday morning. And you've already spent 3 days outlining the plan in your head.
Yep.
And he's not on the same page as you. So we just got to have that additional communication to get him up to speed.
Well, and sometimes I'll try to show them pictures of what I took of the job and said, this is what we're doing. And with this particular guy, a lot of ways he reminds me of my stepson, which has an aptitude for equipment. And I could see him being good at it at some point as well. But I try to explain everything as much as I can so he can be the best at what he's doing. This is why we're doing it. This is what we're doing it. You know, if they don't understand what you expect, then they're never going to give you what you expect.
Right. And the other little tip that we've worked with a lot of guys on is like, when you start laying out that project and like laying out expectations, actually ask them, how would you plan this day? What steps would you take this day? How do we attack this battle plan so we can accomplish this by 4:30? Because they might see like, well, it's really only a one-man job. We just need to have like a gopher on the ground in case something happens or fixing up some problems and all that. And now when you say, awesome, I'm in agreement with you. Now they understand their role for the day because they actually outlined it themselves. Or they see it differently, and you can take that as an opportunity to teach and make them a better employee by saying, I completely understand why you would approach this way, but in jobs in the past, that actually takes us 3 hours longer. And if we do this phase first and this phase second, we'll finish sooner and quicker. And now you turn it into a learning experience instead of why would that's stupid. You do it this way.
Exactly. And I try to communicate as well as I can. This is how long this job should take. This is why this is the order that we should work in, because it does make a difference,
Yeah, we get asked all the time about hiring and retaining good help. And like everyone has the same opinion. Like, oh, there's nobody out there. Nobody wants to work. They're all garbage. And I was like, I disagree. We didn't build a culture or a community within our company that they want to be a part of and fight for. And we didn't communicate enough for them to actually have full understanding of the responsibilities and the duties of that day and the vision of why we do it for the customers. If you can tie those three things together and then showcase that in your community, you'll never have to look for employees because employees will want to come work for you because they're tired of working for crews that don't do it.
I agree.
We took a guy from 4 employees to 12 in 8 months. He went from 1.3 million in business to over 3 million in business. He never once did a job posting.
Pretty good.
Because his team was talking about the culture that he was building in the company. And guys that were frustrated working on crews that didn't have that culture were saying, hey,
wanted to be there.
I want to work with you. I want to work because there's always one guy in every crew that's really good. He just isn't in the right home. And if you can show him what that home is, he'll seek you out.
Yeah. It's for being a one-man show, though, it is sometimes very hard because you need to rely on other people for some things, but you're not necessarily relying on them all the time. But again, to be fair to an employee or somebody working for you, if you don't have a consistent workload, it's hard for them to be loyal to you.
100%. But if they understand the mission, the vision, and the drive, when they do work for you, they'll be a much more engaged, much more productive employee when they do work for you.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great topic. I'm glad we discussed that. Hopefully you take something away from that, from our conversation. Hopefully the listeners do too. And it is, I think you're in a challenging spot because you are part-time. So you can't hire a guy and say, hey, I'll give you 40 hours a week.
Well, and that's where I'm at. Cause like I said, if you found the right person, maybe you could, but until you see that person that really makes you want to be out there, it's hard because I hold myself to a really high standard.
Yeah.
And unless I find somebody that's myself,
and I'll
it's hard to trust them.
I'll challenge you on one little word you use in that sentence, Philip. You said until you find that person. I would challenge you to change that sentence to until you develop that person.
That's what frustrated me because the guy that I was using, I felt like I was really working on developing that person. I mean, granted, we separated for a couple weeks. Now he helped me on something last week, and he's like, "So, where are we?" And I tried to explain to him, and I think maybe he gets it, but you can't expect me to trust you when you leave me hanging.
Right.
When we set something up and say this is the goal, we got to get it done. You leave me hanging. Now you got to earn my trust again.
Yep. Yeah. And just, I would tell, if I was you in your shoes, I would just have a conversation with him next time, meet him for a drink, for lunch, something, and just be like, if you feel that way on the job site, let's hash it out right there. Raise your hand and say, hey, this isn't working for me. They have to be able to communicate to you too without a fear of being fired.
Well, and I think he and I have a very open channel, and I wouldn't think that he would have a problem coming to me, and that's probably why he wound up the way he did, because the average person might not have even said that. I no longer feel like I have value to you, boss, so I'm going home.
Nope, you're absolutely right. The
That,
average person just would have walked out, said you were an a-hole, and I don't want to work for him.
yeah,
So yeah, and he sounds just from that conversation like he's somebody that's I wouldn't fully give up on. I would continue to see if that relationship is salvageable, see if we can increase lines of communication, make him feel
yeah,
comfortable in talking to you. Even if you don't like what he has to say, you have to respect that he's bringing it to you.
correct. Same way in all avenues of life.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So your goal is to go full time this year.
Like
And
to.
you told me that the biggest thing kind of holding you up is your advertising and networking. You think if you could dial that in, that you could actually reach that goal?
I feel like I provide a very good quality of product. So if I knew better ways to apply myself in that department, I probably could. And I've been on the fence so long about calling you and just kind of, you seem to have a lot of valuable information that I need to do something, you know?
Yeah, I like to consider myself like the guy in the airplane that has the 1,000-foot view. Like you guys are in the machine all day doing the work, and you're so close to your business and to your life that you can't see the big picture. So you need
Right.
somebody to come in with a 1,000-foot view and say, "Hey, here's some ideas for you." I actually have that same person. So I meet with a business mentor every Thursday morning to get that 1,000-foot view. So I don't get so
Yeah.
locked in one area of my business that I neglect or forget or don't see trends coming up.
Yeah.
So, so let's go through this for a minute. Like what's a couple areas that you want to discuss on this?
I guess the big thing for me is probably where to market and how to do it the best. I see so many people put in marketplace really poor ads. I've tried to do a little more, tried to kind of get my wife on board with certain things, but it's hard without really knowing the best way to apply your energy, you know?
Yep.
And if you are applying it in the wrong spot, you're just wasting your energy.
Right. So I would take a big step back if I was you, and I would start without looking at where to advertise. I would take a look at my personal beliefs and values and core values.
Yeah.
Do those core values allow me to develop and build out core values and beliefs for my company?
Yeah.
And so now that we're in alignment so that I can be happy and proud of the business that I'm running,
Yeah.
how do I explain those core values and beliefs to my clients and potential customers? How do I
Yeah.
explain them to my employees? So like your mission statement, your tagline, all of that, what's truly important to you. And once you have all that, you can start writing stories, because stories is what sells, not services. So everything you should be marketing should be a story. And I always tell people that say, I'm not a good storyteller. I don't know how to write compelling stories about my business or my customers. It's really easy. Every job you do, you've already got a built in story. You just need to tell it. There was a problem the customer had, there was a solution that you provided, and there was an outcome that the customer received. So if every one of your
That's an incredible way to look at things.
even if you don't do anything else in your post and your advertising, if you follow problem, solution, outcome, you have a story. And that story becomes relatable because people don't look for skid steer services because most of them don't even know what a skid steer is. And it's like a tool. A painter has a ladder, but no painter's ever marketed that he has a ladder to paint your house. So stop advertising that you have tools to do a job. Start advertising the solution to their problems.
So your suggestion more is customer A had 1,000 feet of fence line that was overgrown. We came in with X equipment, cleaned it so they can maintain their fence and keep their livestock in.
Yeah, and
You created a
as a result, they can now run their UTV up and down the fence row and look for mistakes and make sure that their livestock never leave their property. John and Mary couldn't be more happy with the service we provided for them, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to work with them.
Yeah.
So now what you just did was you just told a story about livestock fence, and everybody in your area that has livestock fence can relate to that story.
Yeah.
You do the
Yeah,
same
I've
thing.
done that with a couple things, but I've never really looked at it that way.
You do the same thing with land clearing for a new home development, right?
Yeah.
Everybody that's getting ready to build a house can relate to that because they're looking at it. So you need to make relatable stories, and you can't relate to everybody. So every ad should be for a specific problem with a specific solution.
Yeah.
So, like for example, we used to give away a script to guys in the Skid Steer Nation community group.
Yeah.
And I would actually teach them how to do this. I now call it 30K in 30 days. And I'll give you just a high view overview of it. But we taught them to go into certain groups on different social media channels, become members, take some before and after photos, stitch them together into one photo, write up kind of that same theory, problem, solution, outcome for one specific service, and then add a component of scarcity at the bottom of it. So for instance, we did gravel driveway repair, and we had this big offer. Hey, we can do this and we can provide this. It's a single quote price. We'll give you a discount if you give me a review on Google. We'll do this. We guarantee the work. You'll never spill your coffee leaving the house again in the morning. If this driveway sounds like yours and you'd like to have it repaired this spring, call now. We only have room for 9 more customers this spring. I bet I've had 20 people that actually did this the way I told them to do it, not just said, oh, thanks. Call me and say, I had one guy call me and say, I have 15 requests for estimates 4 hours after he posted it. I have one guy that 3 weeks after he posted it had $30,000 of services on the books. But again, it was pointing out one specific problem, providing one specific solution, and providing them a happy outcome that they could relate to and understand. So it was a very long paragraph. And again, if somebody reads 4 or 5 paragraphs in an ad and they respond to you, they're engaged.
Yeah.
They're not a true tire kicker.
Yeah.
So
which is also helping you weed out your time.
Yep. And it also creates more authority, because if you can explain that problem and solution in good detail in a way that connects with those people, then they're like, that's the guy I want doing my property because he gets it.
Yeah.
So my advice to you, just off the top, simple, start taking really good before and after photos. And here's the thing with before and after photos. You have to have a landmark in that photo, and make
Something
sure
my wife yells at me for all the time.
And make sure the landmark is in the same spot in the before and after. Because I can't tell you how many photos I look at and go, is that even the same property?
Yeah.
Because there's no reference point for me to see the difference.
Yeah.
So the guy that takes the photo of the driveway from the road before he does the work, and then takes a photo of the driveway from the garage back pointing to the road afterwards, I can't tell that's the same driveway.
Yeah.
He knows it is, but I don't. So mark a reference. I mean, keep a can of marking spray paint. And when you take your before photo, mark that spot with the pink spray paint, and then stand there for your after photo.
Yeah, that's a very good thing to point out.
Because we get so caught up in knowing what we're doing, and we expect other people to understand what we do.
Yeah, you look at your job and man, that's incredible. And somebody else is like, so what did you do there?
Right.
You know?
If I started talking to you about creating custom audiences and retargeting ads on Facebook and YouTube and how the SEO optimization for the Skid Steer Nation website works, you'd look at me like I had 3 eyeballs. So I'd have to break it down into very simple, easy to consume topics so that you could follow the big high level points. We need to do the same thing with our services, because Mary, John, and Bob in the neighborhood have no idea what land clearing entails.
Right. Or the equipment or tools or the cost or anything associated with it.
And to be honest with you, the equipment and tools and cost, they don't care about it.
Correct.
They care about having their problem fixed at a price that they see a value in.
Correct.
And if you can provide enough value, your price is irrelevant, and you can win more work at higher pricing because they want to work with somebody that understands their project, commits to a time frame, adds additional value above and beyond, because they want it done right.
Yeah, and that's generally how I try to look at most of my jobs and most of my customers. Like you said, you don't want every job. And the ones that want you so badly are usually the ones that you want to be at or don't want to be at the most, you know?
Yep. And when you charge a higher price, the people that pay that, they don't bother you as much. They're easier customers to work for.
Yeah.
It's the ones that always want a deal. I want a deal. That's too much money. Can you knock another 500 off? Or can I get this? And then they complain, well, this tree's not trimmed right. Or this, why didn't you take that bush out? Or there isn't enough gravel at the end of the driveway. The guy that pays you $7,000 says, thank you.
Yep. 9 times out of 10, the guy that pays $7,000 gives you a tip too and says, I appreciate the extra.
Exactly. So, and again, if you start getting in pricing wars with your local competition, there's only one place you can go. That's to zero. When you start
getting to the bottom.
Yeah. When you start getting into how much value can I provide to my customer, you can make that price whatever you want. Either they take it or they don't, but you're not like, stop worrying about your competitors. Start worrying about the value you provide to your customers. And
Couldn't say it any better.
Yeah. And if you create an estimate that has so many line items of all the steps you do, laying out your process because they don't understand your process, laying out commitments to timeframes based on weather. You know, we guarantee we'll start by the 10th of February, as long as it's weather permitting. We guarantee it be completed to this, weather permitting. We guarantee the work that you'll have no offshoots regrowing up in your pasture for 45 days. All that stuff that you would normally do anyway, list it out, because that makes the number at the bottom of the page look a lot smaller.
Did the same thing on an estimate yesterday. I was looking at it as, you know, you kind of get the feel for the customer that they're not totally pinching pennies, but you want to build the best value for them. And if they see this guy is going to do this, this, and this, and he's bringing this, this, and this, and he's looking to do, you know, reasonable timeline, again, it makes that price a little bit softer.
Yeah. If you write mulch 1 acre and you put a price at the bottom of what would you charge for that?
I try not to go by the acre.
Well, just for the sake of this conversation, give me a
maybe you say $2,500.
All right, so 1 acre, $2,500. Or if you write out brush hogging and removal of all small shrubs, grass, bushes around all fences, removal of any tree 4 inches or larger. Pink tape trees will remain on property. Stump removal when necessary. This guarantee, that guarantee, this guarantee, $4,500. Which one would you buy?
Yeah.
You spend more money
because you get more specific.
Because you get more value.
Yeah.
You get more value.
Like I said, I did the exact same thing on the estimate I was writing up yesterday. And it's not that you're going to need everything, but you're explaining to them that if you come across the need for it, it's going to be taken care of.
Yep. Nope, absolutely. So if I was you, I would start with making sure that I have a clear, concise message of who you are as a company, what values you have as a company. So when a customer asks you, we call it the elevator pitch. If you and I got in an elevator and we hit the 8th floor, by the time we get to the 8th floor, I better walk off and know exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell me in that 15 to 20 seconds, then you need to dial it in.
And that also goes into where you're talking about these people that want to do 30 different things and they're not spectacular at anything. You know,
Right.
you need to be focused. Otherwise, you're going to the 8th floor trying to say, oh, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do that. So what are you good at?
Right.
You know?
Yep. So if you and I got in an elevator and you asked me what I did for a living, I would look at you and say, I own a company called Skid Steer Nation. It's an online dealer for skid steer attachments. We only partner with American family-owned manufacturers that place a higher value on quality than profits. I'm done. There's no questions as to what I do.
Yeah.
Or what I offer.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do for your business so that and the more you say it, the more confidence you have in it. And the more confidence you have in it, the more trust you build, because that confidence, they feel it, they see it.
Yeah.
If you can't tell them what you do, then they wonder if you can actually do what you tell them.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So yeah, start with the storytelling philosophy of that, man. Problem, solution, outcome.
I hired a photographer drone guy, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And that was one of the things he suggested. He put together a video that was based on a story of a job that I had. I mean, it definitely gets more attention because there's a reason behind it, you know?
Yeah. And you could literally go to like a Word document form and just type up land clearing of 3.5 acres, write what the property looked like in advance, put a picture of the before, work that was completed on that property with some work pictures of in process, and then the result of the property, right? The experience the customer has with the new property and some after photos. Print those off. They don't even have to be pretty looking, but that's a case study, and you can give that to every customer you go give a bid to.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about putting a photography portfolio together to do similar, but
You're better off investing in a template, or like go to Fiverr.com or Upworks or something like that and find some graphic designer for $50 to make you a case study. Give him all the details of the problem, the solution, the result, and some photos, and he'll make a 1-page case study for that. And then you've got the template, and you just change the photos and change the wording and all that for every job. And then you got your logo on it, your phone number. And then more and more, if you've got 20 case studies if I come to your property and hand you 20 case studies of properties similar to yours, like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Right. Very good way to look at it.
Yeah. And those are quick and easy to make. It's just most people don't know how to make them, and it's new. So we resist it because we don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so many problems that people have to solve if you're in a specific niche of a market. If you know those problems, like you said, you don't need a ton of them. You just need a couple of them for the few different problems that you're generally solving, and it's relatable.
Yep. And put them on your Facebook profile, your Instagram profile, put them on your website.
Yeah.
Put them on your Google My Business, and let that stuff work for you 24 hours a day while you're doing other jobs or sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, it's just scary with that. But like you said, if you kind of find ways to dial yourself in a little better, the work comes to you.
Absolutely. Dial your message in, dial your processes in, and the rest of it's, just keep it simple. You don't have to go reinvent the wheel on how you market yourself. Just tell the problem, tell the solution, tell the outcome. And you'll get better. You'll get better and better at telling that story every time you do it. The first one will be terrible. It's supposed to be. You've never done it before. First time you cleared land wasn't good. You had to do, it took you 5 times longer than it does now.
Yeah, like I said, when I went back to that old Ford tractor, I just kind of scratched my head. Like, I don't know how I ever did it,
Yeah.
But, brute force and perseverance.
Just keep rewriting that story on one job until you like, man, that's really good. And then post it with the photos.
Yeah.
Boost that post. Put $20 or $100 behind it.
Yeah. Guess I need to work on that.
Yeah. Welcome to owning a business. Like, if we could all just sit in the machine and just like not have to worry about the rest of it, life would be good and easy. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
The hardest part also is, like, when you're pretty much the sole breadwinner in that situation, you realize, hey, I got to go get this job done, but hey, I got to go look at this job. And like you said, there's only so much time in the day.
Yep.
It's the one thing you can't buy more of, You
can't buy more of it. Whether you're doing $10,000 a year in business or 10 million, you've all got the same 24 hours a day. So you just got to be able to, you got to find ways to leverage that time. Like, stack jobs and tasks on top of each other. Like, what can you do while you're in the car driving?
Right.
Can you take your receipts and put them in QuickBooks while you're, maybe not while you're driving, but while you're eating your lunch in a parked parking lot? But like stacking and being efficient with your time and blocking out time to make sure that certain tasks that are important get done.
Yeah, I've noticed you've talked about that in some of your other podcasts about, like, for instance, your posting for the week. Block out an hour or two to put all your posts together, schedule it, and boom, you're done. Now you don't have to.
I do it. I do it once a week. I sit down and we figure out what topics and things we want to talk about, what videos we need to get made, or what images need to be cropped.
Yeah.
And then I sit down and figure out what stories I need to tell for that. And I'm done. I just do it all at one time, because it gets to be mundane if you have to do it every day, and then you don't do it, and then you're not consistent. And if you're not consistent, then the message gets lost. So you just have to I use time blocking to your advantage.
Certainly.
Make your list of 5 people that you want to call and introduce yourself to and network with while you're drinking your coffee or sitting on the toilet every morning. And then while you're driving to work, make the phone calls.
Yeah.
But it's creating those habits, which is the hard part because it's new.
Yeah, routine and habits is a big thing in life. If you can't drill them in, they kind of get lost in the process,
Oh yeah, mine got lost real bad last year. And it's been the focus of myself this year is creating my own personal habits, not so much business, but personal. Well, good deal, man. Phil, this has been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love your outlook on providing value to customers. I love your thought process on really digging deep into really understanding what that customer wants and going above and beyond to provide the best value you can get. I think finding repeat customers is so overlooked. We just hope they call us back instead of maintaining that relationship. And you gave a lot of good advice to other contractors out there today, and I appreciate all of that.
Yeah, the biggest thing I could say to anybody else is when you're looking at a job, you're trying to find the problems that they have. You want to be the solution, and the more solutions in the situation that you can provide, the more value you're going to provide to that customer. And again, as you said, the more that customer is going to want to use you and call you back and tell all their friends.
Yeah,
Because if you look at the situation and you see it, it's huge.
yeah. Quit making it about you and how much money you can make, and start making it about solving problems for customers. And you'll be shocked at how much more money you can generate in 12 months.
Oh yeah.
Shocked.
Well, I thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Philip. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast, I have one request. Hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends and family on social media. That's all we ask. It's the only ask. We don't ask you to pay for a subscription to listen to us. We don't even get outside advertisers to help offset this. We just do this to provide value to you guys as contractors so that you can grow your business. And all we ask for in return is that you subscribe to the podcast and share it on your networks. And if you are looking for more ways to increase your business, reach out to us. You can contact us at sales@skidsteernation.com. We are launching a new program called Groundbreaking Growth, where we work and develop a coaching program for you to reach and surpass your goals in a short amount of time. And we even guarantee it. If we don't get you results in less than 90 days, we'll give you 100% of your money back. It's called Groundbreaking Growth, and it's launching soon. So contact us if you're interested. We'll see you guys on the next episode.